We saw a fire burning in the distance, but the smoke drifted toward us. It moved against the wind. The air had been flowing steadily downhill all afternoon, cool and resinous, carrying the clean scent of cedar and wet loam. We'd felt it at our backs for miles. Yet the smoke slid uphill in a long gray ribbon, deliberate as a finger tracing our path. It did not disperse. It did not thin. Came straight for us through the trees. "Campers," Jonah said quickly. Too quickly. "Has to be." There were no roads out here. No marked sites. The forest had swallowed the trail an hour ago, bending it into a narrow corridor of roots and leaning trunks that hadn't been on the map. But Jonah said it again anyway, as if repetition might anchor the world back into something reasonable. Campers. The fire itself remained distant. We saw it only in fragments. Orange flickers threading between branches, a pulse of light that brightened and dimmed as if breathing. It never seemed closer no matter how long we stared. The smoke reached us first. It did not billow. It flowed, thick and low, brushing our knees before rising slowly to waist height. It felt textured against my skin, not like vapor but like something granular and warm, sliding across my hands and face. It smelled wrong. Not wood smoke alone, but burning sap, sweet and sharp, like caramel left too long on heat. Beneath that sweetness was something bitter, almost metallic. Lila coughed and waved a hand in front of her mouth. "Why isn't it rising?" It wasn't pooling in the canopy. It wasn't dissipating in the wind. It curled around us, coiling into the hollow of my collarbone, slipping under my sleeves. The forest had gone silent. Not gradually, not the way evening hush descends in layers. It was as if someone had placed a heavy glass dome over the world. No insects, no birds. Even the subtle creak of swaying branches had stopped. Jonah adjusted his pack. "We should go around it." "Which way?" Lila asked. He turned, scanning the trees. The path behind us was narrower now than it had been minutes ago. The trunks leaned inward at sharper angles, their bark ridged and dark. The light filtering through the canopy shifted strangely. Patches of brightness flickered where there were no openings above, while shaded areas glowed faintly amber, as though lit from below. The fire flickered again in the distance. It seemed to pulse in rhythm with something unseen. Not wind, not fuel collapsing, a measured cadence. The smoke thickened, carried sound with it. At first I thought it was my own breath echoing in my ears, but then I heard it clearly. A whisper threaded through the haze. Not words exactly, syllables half-formed, dissolving before meaning could settle. Lila stiffened. "Did you hear that?" Jonah shook his head too quickly. "Just the wind." "There is no wind," I said. The smoke pressed closer to the ground, sliding along roots and pooling in depressions. It moved with intention, splitting around tree trunks and then rejoining, as if navigating obstacles rather than drifting aimlessly. We took a step back. The fire flared brighter. Heat brushed my face, though it remained far beyond the reach of our feet. My skin prickled, sweat beading along my spine. "Okay," Jonah muttered. "Okay. That's not normal." The trees shifted. Not violently, not enough to register as motion at first glance. But the spacing between trunks tightened. Branches that had angled upward now dipped lower, their needles catching the distant orange glow. The path we'd been standing on curved gently to the right. None of us moved. It simply curved. Lila let out a thin, trembling laugh. "We're turned around." The smoke rose to chest height. It brushed my lips and left a taste there, sweet, resinous, faintly acrid. My tongue felt numb. From within the gray thickness came a crackle. Not from the distant fire. From somewhere closer. I turned slowly. An ember glowed at the base of a nearby cedar. Just one. Nestled in the moss like a watchful eye. No flame, just a coal red pulse. Jonah stepped toward it instinctively, perhaps to stamp it out. The ember went dark. The distant fire dimmed at the same moment. Lila's breathing grew shallow. "It's connected." The fire flared again, brighter than before. The trunks ahead were rimmed in orange light, their bark etched with shadows that writhed subtly, as though something moved behind them. We tried to walk toward it. We took 20 steps. The fire did not grow closer. It remained framed by the same crooked pair of trees, the same forked branch cutting across its glow. "Impossible," Jonah whispered. The smoke thickened to the point of opacity. It wrapped around my arms and tightened faintly, like damp cloth. When I raised my hand, the haze clung and followed. A whisper formed within it. My name, soft, almost affectionate. I froze. Lila grabbed my sleeve. "Don't listen." The fire crackled again, louder now. The sound was layered, with splitting, sap popping. But beneath it was a rhythm too deliberate to be accidental. 3 crackles. Pause. 3. Like applause. The trees leaned subtly inward. The clearing ahead widened into a shallow bowl, though I could have sworn the terrain had been flat moments before. The ground dipped, forming a natural amphitheater facing the distant flame. "It's performing," Lila breathed. The word felt absurd and horribly accurate. The smoke drifted in spirals above the bowl, shaping itself into vague columns that rose and dissolved. They almost resembled figures standing in silent rows. The fire flickered brighter. Heat washed over us in a wave, intense enough to sting, though the undergrowth between us and the flame remained untouched. No leaves curled. No branches blackened. Heat without flame. Jonah wiped sweat from his brow. His hand came away streaked gray. "Why isn't anything burning?" he demanded, as though the forest might answer. The smoke answered instead. It gathered thickly before him, swirling into a vertical column that mimicked the outline of a human torso. For a heartbeat it held that shape, then unraveled. The whispering grew clearer. Fragments of voices, familiar cadences, snatches of words we had spoken earlier on the trail. "I'm tired. Let's keep going." Almost there. The forest had kept them, stored them in smoke. Lila covered her ears, but the sound seemed to seep through skin. "It's using us," she whispered. The fire's light pulsed in steady intervals now. Not chaotic, not wild, measured. The bowl-shaped clearing deepened further, the soil softening under our boots. Around its rim, trees stood in unnaturally even spacing, their trunks upright and symmetrical like columns. A stage. The smoke thickened into curtains at the edges. Jonah took a shaky step backward. The ground rose behind him. The slope sealed. We were in the center now. The fire flared once more, brighter than before. Through the trees, for a split second, I saw something move across the flame's face. A silhouette too tall and too straight, interrupting the light. Not emerging, just passing. Watching. The heat intensified until breathing felt like swallowing ash. My skin prickled as though sunburned. Yet the leaves around us remained lush and green. The whispering resolved into something almost coherent. A rhythm. An incantation without language. The smoke pressed inward, herding us closer together in the center of the bowl. The fire dimmed suddenly. Darkness swallowed the forest. The smoke did not vanish. It glowed faintly from within. Tiny embers winked open at our feet, in places we had not stepped. They traced a slow circle around us, outlining our position. Jonah's voice broke. "It's marking us." The embers pulsed in time with the distant flame. 3 pulses. Pause. 3. The fire brightened once more, but this time the light seemed closer, though the distance had not changed. The trees around the bowl leaned inward further, their branches knitting into an arch overhead. The amphitheater complete. The smoke drew upward in one unified column between us and the flame. Within it, shapes formed again, vague, shifting, humanoid. Mirroring us, the crackling rhythm slowed. The whispers softened into a low murmur that sounded almost satisfied. The fire did not advance. It did not need to. The smoke tightened around our wrists, our ankles, cool now instead of hot. The embers at our feet flared brighter, illuminating our shadows against the bowl's sloped earth. Our shadows stretched long and thin toward the distant flame. And when the fire pulsed again, those shadows did not move with us. They leaned forward on their own, reaching toward the light, as if answering a cue in a performance we had never agreed to join. A voice whispered our secrets from somewhere beneath the roots. It came softly at first, so low we mistook it for the hush of wind combing through needles. We had stopped to rest in a shallow hollow where old cedars knotted their roots above the soil like arthritic fingers. The air smelled of damp earth and moss, metallic and green, as if the ground had been freshly turned. My palms were pressed into the forest floor when I felt it, the faintest tremor, a vibration not strong enough to be called movement, but steady. Then the whisper rose again. "Don't tell them." Eli jerked upright. "Did you hear that?" The words hadn't drifted across the air. They had risen through it. Lena stared at the ground between us. The moss there was thick and plush, threaded with roots that braided in and out of the soil. Tiny beads of moisture clung to them, reflecting the dim light that filtered through the canopy. "Don't tell them," the voice repeated, softer this time. Intimate. Eli's face drained of color. He had said those words once, years ago, in a hospital corridor when he thought no one else was listening. The forest was silent. Not peacefully silent, oppressively so. No insect hum. No bird call. Even the distant river we'd followed all morning seemed to have withdrawn beneath layers of earth. Lena swallowed. "It's echoes," she said. "Sound carries weird underground." "From whose mouth?" I asked. The soil pulsed again under my hand. Not a jolt, not a quake. A slow expansion and contraction like breath. We stood at once. The roots nearest to us shifted slightly, not uprooting, not snapping, just adjusting. Their tips twitched deeper into the soil as if burrowing toward something. The whisper returned, layered now. "Take the money. You didn't mean to push him. You hoped she wouldn't wake up." The words were precise. They did not belong to the open air. They belonged to private rooms, to thoughts half-formed and swallowed, to moments never confessed. Lena staggered back. "That's not possible." The trees around the hollow leaned subtly inward. I would have sworn they had been upright moments before. Now their trunks angled toward us at faint but deliberate degrees, bark ridges catching the thin light. The roots at our feet tightened. I felt one press against my boot, firm and deliberate. The soil beneath us throbbed again, more pronounced this time. The tremor traveled up my legs into my spine, a low resonance that seemed to hum inside my chest cavity. "It's just pressure," Eli muttered. "Groundwater. Animals tunneling." As if in response, the earth beneath him exhaled. The moss parted slightly between his boots. A thin seam opened in the soil, no wider than a finger, revealing darkness below. From that darkness came a breath. Warm, moist, carrying the deep, fungal scent of rot layered over something older and mineral, like a cave sealed for centuries. Then the voice spoke again, directly beneath him. "You locked the door." Eli stumbled back as though struck. Lena looked at him, horrified. "What does that mean?" He shook his head violently. "Nothing." The forest did not accept that answer. The roots around the hollow began to pulse faintly, a dull glow traveling along their lengths just beneath the bark, like bioluminescence buried under wood. It flickered in slow waves, moving from trunk to trunk in widening circles. Conduits. The realization came unbidden. The roots were not random growth. They were veins, and whatever lay beneath them was circulating something through the forest. Memory. The whisper spread outward. Now it came from multiple points below us, overlapping in murmur and echo. Not shouted, not accusatory. Reciting. "You wished he would fail. You imagined letting go. You never loved her." Lena clamped her hands over her ears, but the sound vibrated through her palms, through her skull. The trees leaned closer. Their branches lowered incrementally, needles brushing one another in slow, synchronized movements. No wind drove them. The air hung heavy and inert. The path behind us narrowed. Roots surfaced where bare soil had been, weaving together in braided arcs that formed a low barrier. "Move," I said. We tried. Each step felt heavier than the last. as though the soil thickened around our boots. The ground flexed subtly underfoot, rising and falling in that same breath-like rhythm. The whisper shifted tone, less fragmented now, more coherent. You carry it inside you. The words came from everywhere beneath the forest floor. Every thought, every hunger. Eli broke first. It's reading us, he gasped. It's inside our heads. No, Lena insisted through tears. It's coincidence. It's guessing. The soil beneath her vibrated sharply. You watched her drown. Lena froze. Her secret had never passed her lips. The moss at her feet darkened, moisture rising through it in thin, trembling beads. The roots beneath her boots tightened, their tips curling upward like fingers testing air. The forest knew the exact shape of her guilt. The trees tilted further inward, enclosing the hollow into a narrowing bowl. Light above us thinned to a sickly green. The whispers softened, almost affectionate. We keep what you bury. The roots began to move in earnest now, not tearing free, but sliding beneath the soil in visible ripples. The ground heaved gently as they repositioned, knitting into denser patterns around us. Eli tried to step over a thick root. It rose to meet his ankle. He fell hard, palms sinking into wet earth. The soil there parted slightly, and for a fraction of a second I saw something pale beneath it. Not bone, not stone. A smooth surface that curved like the inside of a skull. Then the dirt closed again. Eli scrambled backward, sobbing. There's something under there. The whisper came directly beneath his hands. We remember for you. The pulse through the ground accelerated. Breath, breath, breath. The roots glowed brighter for an instant, faint lines of illumination racing outward in branching networks that extended beyond the hollow, beyond our sight. The entire forest was connected, watching, listening, recording. The soil vibrated in sync with our heartbeats until I could no longer tell which rhythm was mine. The trees had stopped leaning. They were close enough now that their bark nearly brushed our shoulders. Their trunks bore faint ridges and grooves that, in the shifting light, resembled closed eyelids. The whisper lowered to a murmur. You feed us. The words were not cruel. They were factual. Another tremor rippled beneath us, stronger than before. The moss dipped inward slightly, forming shallow impressions around our feet. Molds shaped perfectly to our soles. Roots pressed gently against our calves. Not restraining, measuring. Eli's breathing grew frantic. It wants something. Lena shook her head slowly, tears streaking through dirt on her cheeks. No, it already has it. The ground's rhythm steadied. The glow beneath the roots dimmed to a faint pulse. The whispers faded into something almost like contented sighs. Above us, the canopy sealed further, blotting out the last pale strip of sky. The hollow was no longer a resting place. It was a chamber, a quiet, subterranean lung inhaling and exhaling around us. The final whisper rose not in fragments, not in secrets, but in unison from every root entwined beneath our feet. We will grow from this. The soil beneath us softened, and the forest drew one long, patient breath.